Welcome to Music Outlook LA, the podcast which highlights the independent artist, whether they are a musician, vocalist, actor, actress, live audio or in-studio engineer, or a videographer, photographer. I'm your host, Will Kimsey. Each episode, we'll look at the gigs of the independent artists, from the venues we play to how we set up and break down, the gear we use and why we use it, and the info we hope you'll find useful as we all make our way in the entertainment industry. Music Outlook LA is brought to you by Kim Z Entertainment LLC. Go to kim-zentertainment.com to find out what they're doing for the independent artist. Kim Z Entertainment LLC. Independent entertainment done independently. My guest today is Joe Beribak. He's a multi-hyphenate in every sense of the word. He's a percussionist, a conductor, a prize-winning composer, and a dedicated educator. But his path to the podium is anything but standard. We're talking about a man who spent nearly 2 years in the silence of a Benedictine monastery singing Gregorian chant, before returning to the hustle of the modern freelance world. Joe is a recent joiner of the Chicago Federation of Musicians, but he's also a bridge builder. Between his late in life autism diagnosis and his pursuit of what he calls expert noticing, Joe sees the invisible world of sound in a way that's frankly on a whole different plane of the Spider-Verse. Y'all know I love my Marvel. Whether he's finding music in the sounds of a kitchen or mapping out digital patch charts that look like a vintage Moog synth, he is the definition of the modern neurodivergent artist. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe Beribak. Joe, welcome to the show, and I've seen the software that you're using or that you have used in the past and your resume, and I'm still trying to figure out, are you a musician, a scientist from the X-Men, or a resident of the multitude of madness? But how you doing today, my friend?
I'm really glad to be here. Good to talk with you. What an intro.
Yep, you do realize that you could either be in the multitude of madness in the multiverse, or if you're a DC comic lover, I don't even know if you like comics or not, but if you're DC, you know there's the other thing they had back in the day, Elseworlds. So,
well, I saw the first X-Men movie, and I haven't seen any superhero movies or read any comics since then, so I am completely naive as to what these references are.
Oh, well, basically it's just alternate realities. That's all it is, you know. It's basically kind of a take on, for everything there's an equal and opposite reaction, or if you do one thing, then it might launch a chain of events down the road in some direction, and if you don't, this will happen, that'll happen, kind of like the butterfly effect that people talk about. So, you know, you've got your Spider-Verse where you've got different versions of Spider-Man running around, the multitude of madness where every time something happens, there's a different version of somebody. So, you know, I'm just trying to figure it out. It's like, dude, you are just in paper and on digital. You're an amazing cat, man. You are amazing.
Oh,
so
cool.
Let's just jump right into it. There was Music Outlook LA is about the gigs, the gear, and the info. So we're going to start right off the bat with your gigs, your performances, and your projects. We're going to get right into it with one of your originals called Poplar Creek.
Yeah.
It was a marimba piece for your marriage proposal. That's interesting. And when you perform a piece that's so deeply personal, does it change the way you execute the technique?
Well, I definitely practiced the heck out of it because I wanted to have a good performance. But I got a little distracted because my wife, when I was making the proposal, didn't realize I was making the proposal. And it was during COVID.
Yeah.
And I got a little lost in that performance, but I had a very friendly audience.
Good. So is the mental gig, if you will, different when the stakes are your own life story as opposed to a professional gig or a professional commission?
It definitely is. I spend a good deal of my time working on personal projects such as that piece. And even when I have something I do professionally, I do try to bring some element of the personal to it, because when I listen back, if I don't have that personal connection to the music, it just sounds kind of flat. So there is a slight difference just in the fact that I'm not getting paid for writing a piece for my marriage proposal. So I don't have to do all of the figuring out of how this is going to work financially. But I did also have an ulterior motive for the piece. I thought, let me write a piece that'd be good for intermediate level marimba players who want to play with 4 mallets, and they don't want to play a super long piece. So that was what I had in mind for who might play the piece after me. But for the marriage proposal itself, it was just a matter of organizing the logistics of that day. I did happen to get stuck in an elevator trying to get that marimba to the location where I was proposing to her.
Uh-oh. I'm glad to see you got out. I hope you weren't in there too long.
About 30 minutes.
Ooh. Ow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't on a high-rise building now, was it?
No, it was at Elgin Public Museum. That's where I'm originally from, Elgin, Illinois, outside of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister was on the board of directors there, and they were all closed down during COVID, and she was able to open up the building for me. And I told my girlfriend at the time that my sister was letting us have a private tour of the museum, but I was actually setting up to make a marriage proposal to her that day.
Okay. And glad you got out of the elevator to make your proposal. Cool. You got a song that's called a Prandial Triptych. I hope I said that right.
Triptych, yeah.
Triptych. Okay. A Prandial Triptych, which was born out of a sound walk.
Mm-hmm.
Where you were literally hungry. So if I understand that, you would just walk around and make sounds. Listen for them, record them, and capture them. I have that right?
That's right. Yeah, this was actually, I think, like day 1 or 2 of electronic music 1 with Dr. Brian Pencrod at Northern Illinois. And he said, you're going to use the source material from walking around the School of Music, inside and outside, and then listen back to the sound walk and pick out cool sounds. So there's sounds in there like me drumming on a mushroom. There's me opening and closing a door. There's the sound of the marching band rehearsing outside, and all of it gets digitally manipulated, so it's not even really recognizable all the time for its original source.
Right. And what music school was this for again?
Northern Illinois University.
All right. Cool. So now that we understand what the sound walk is, walk us through the gig of your daily life with autism. How do you transition from the sensory input, like the kitchen sounds or the drumming mushroom, into a formal stage performance?
So, are we specifically talking about that piece or just in general?
Either, both, in between.
So I I'll just talk more about that piece, because one of the things that happens with me as an autistic person is that I get pretty fixated on a specific thing. So when I listened back to the final version of the first movement, I was like, well, this is great. This is before I eat, but I'm kind of curious about the sounds of when I eat and the sounds of after I eat. So I took it upon myself to make 2 more movements. That's why it's a triptych. Triptychs are like religious paintings that have 3 panels. You'll often see in a church Jesus in the center, John the Baptist, and Mary on either side of him, or Saint Joseph or something. But I took my microphones into the kitchen with me. I was chopping vegetables and just getting fixated on all the sounds that I'm experiencing, because as an autistic person, I don't have a lot of filter for the sounds that come in. I hear a lot, which is part of why I can notice so many things, but also why everyday life often tires me out a little bit more than the average person. So then I also recorded after eating the sounds of me doing dishes and stuff. And that actually leads into the keyboard that I put together. I chopped up various sounds and assigned them MIDI pitches in Ableton Live, and then I was able to play on, we had a mallet cat at the school, and so I assigned a note for every drum pad trigger on the mallet cat.
Okay. You know, we were all just a bunch of musical geeks on this show, right?
I figured, yes.
Oh, yeah. That's why we're like, okay, make, model number, what do you do? How do you plug this into that and everything else? It's one of the things that we do for the gear part. But let's get to the Elgin Youth Symphony Orchestra, EYSO, the youth stage. And with that, I understand that you lead multiple percussion ensembles with that particular organization. So in an era of digital distractions, what's the energy of a live percussion gig for these kids? And how do you teach them that the gig is much about the silence between the notes as the notes themselves?
This is where that term expert noticer comes in. I did not come up with the term myself. The former music director, Randy Swigum, coined that term, and we've been using it ever since. It kind of encapsulates our strategy for helping students learn all those extra musical skills that go into making a performance great. It starts with what pieces we choose. So as a percussionist and someone who's leading the percussion ensemble, I have so many pieces to choose from that really shock some of the students. And the pieces often call into question assumptions the students come into orchestra with or into chamber music playing. And I always have the goal of keeping students interested in this process of learning, taking ownership of their own education. And by the time they graduate, usually they're highly self-sufficient in their percussion ensemble rehearsals. So I got a group of seniors there right now. They lead their own rehearsals. They become so self-sufficient that they got deeply involved in choosing the music as well. And it's just such a joy to watch them take off and start contributing their own creative ideas to the world of music.
You know, I went to Berkeley, and we had professors, many of, it's primarily a jazz school, but within the last 1, 2, 3, I would say about 4 or 5 years, Boston Conservatory of Music is now part of the Berklee family. But all of the instructors stressed, especially when it came to improv, that the silence in between the notes is equally as important as the notes you choose. So I do agree with that statement, you know. It's okay to take a rest. It's okay to break for 3 or 4 beats before you go on to the next idea. You don't have to be a continual stream of notes and riffs and everything else. You can pause somewhere in the middle or at any point in time. It's a really good thing. That's a really good.
The other thing I do with the youth orchestra is I coach them in the orchestra section. So a big part of playing orchestra percussion is the space between the notes. Sometimes they'll just have a few notes for a 5 to 10 minute piece. So I make sure all the students have a score and learn to navigate the score. And sometimes if I'm in rehearsal and the conductor on the podium is rehearsing something with the winds or the strings, I have the students pull out the score and say, let's look at what it is that's giving that section trouble, so that they can be more informed about how the other instruments produce music, and then they're more informed when they get to actually make sound in the orchestra as well. Yeah.
I learned classically when I first started as a keyboard player, piano obviously. But I found it was more helpful theoretically for me with the sight reading and everything else. I've done conducting and all of that, so I have read the big chart. But I guess not, but I guess you could say that, you know, I'm not completely limited when it comes to classical, but I'm more well versed in popular music. But to my point, and I didn't give you this one, but it makes me think of geez, I'm losing my train of thought here. In orchestras or jazz bands or anything else, you're telling a story. That's where I'm going with this. You're telling a story. And I noticed that in my years of music, that it's not even especially with the classical genre versus any form of the pop genre, no matter what. A story is still being told. Like if you take let's take one of the most famous classical pieces that every piano player has to learn how to play, Moonlight Sonata. Just the title itself implies a story.
Yeah.
So I guess what you're also trying to say with the students when they're rehearsing in the orchestra for that section, for the wind section, and they're going over their piece, their part in the movement, and you're getting the kids to see what the purpose of the piece is and what their role is and how it all comes in together. You're also helping them to shape and tell the story, and that they're not just, you know, small little bit players in it. Every piece of the puzzle is equally as important, even if you don't have a major part in it.
Yeah, so that they can see how their small part fits into the whole narrative. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So let's go on to your gear.
Sure.
Because, I mean, we could go on about storytelling and everything else for an hour just on that alone.
Absolutely.
There's this program that you used, Max MSP. I think of it as a Moog synthesizer. Back in the day, you know, the Moog was the electric keyboard that had a huge panel of 1/4-inch inputs. And you would take various 6 to foot long 1/4-inch cables, sometimes longer depending on how far from one end to the other you had to plug in something. And you would see these cables in one into another, in one into another, and on and so forth. And it did look kind of mad scientisty, so that's why I kind of used the digital Moog reference with this particular app. Because I opened it up and that was the first thing I saw.
Yeah.
Big picture of, and I'm sure they patterned it after the old Moog. But you did mention at one point you did want to master that Max MSP to sync your visuals with your music for the online work that you have posted. So for us old school musicians that are listening, how would you see or view the software like Max? Is it just another instrument that you practice like a marimba, or do you have to use a completely different part of your brain to patch into those digital cables? I mean, we have digital audio cable applications. Soundflower is about the oldest one. There's some other new ones that, you know, are out there. But, you know, do we have to patch a different part of our brain in to use an app like that? Or
I know I did, for sure, because especially coming at it from the perspective of a drummer and percussionist, the instruments, the percussion instruments, you can make a sound on them instantly, and then you just experiment and work with teachers to refine your sound, but you're always making a sound. The hardest thing for me working with electronic instruments is that if I don't connect everything properly, no sound comes out, or the program crashes in one way or another, and it can be pretty scary. In fact, the patch that I created, it didn't actually work when the concert came around to present it. I think mainly because another student unplugged my microphone in the middle of what was happening, because he was like, "Oh, I need this cable." And I thought, well, there goes my recording of what's happening here. But it's a different part of the brain, because you're looking at things like how many milliseconds do I want my click to be, not really beats per minute. I mean, they do have another thing within that program that can do beats per minute, but you're really working with sound as a technical object in those electronic environments. And so there's a new vocabulary to learn. There's a whole bunch of manuals to read and examples to follow. And the limit is really, what does my imagination think it should sound like here? And then we just try to figure out how to do that. And hopefully it works in the end.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that cable getting unplugged that killed your recording was a teachable moment. You know, when I'm out playing, everybody wants to help. You know, is there something that you can do? Well, what do you need me to do? What is this? What is that? Because I also do live audio and other things. And I'm the kind of person who's like, no, I'll get it myself because I want it plugged up just right. And I have had to learn to let other people help me. But I do find that with individuals that, you know, mean well but don't really know the difference between an XLR cable and a 1/4 inch or a 3.5 millimeter cable, or anything else for that matter, a rubber mallet versus a cloth mallet, you know, or anything else. They have a lot of questions, and when you're trying, at least for me, when I'm trying to connect a big 15-inch subwoofer, big 15-inch woofer to the mixing board, And I'm trying to run this cable in such a way so that neither the musicians nor the audience trips over, because I don't have a yellow jacket to cover the cables. You know, the little mini speed bumps that they sound audio guys have.
Yeah.
And they have a question. I'm like, okay, and you got to go answer the question and then get back. And it's like, I think I do better with you just being over there, because I'll be done about 10 minutes faster. But please don't unplug anything.
Yeah.
You know, well, I need the cable. Oh, well, then come ask me. You know, don't just go unplugging and plugging things. Oh, well, this should go work good. No, there's a method to the madness. Just don't unplug things. And
when the cables start multiplying, it starts looking pretty mad for sure.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you have to untangle all that spaghetti at the end of the night. So who's, you know, there you go. But in regards to your gear, and for that song, a prandial triptych. There, I did it. Yay. You created custom kitchen sounds for a keyboard, or at least a custom kitchen sounds keyboard. So what goes into the gear side of that sampling? And are you the guy who's walking around the house hitting pots and pans with specific mallets, rubber, or whatever, just to find that perfect pitch?
I am indeed that guy.
Uh-oh.
I've been that guy since high school. This is part of the reason I got into music. I remember going to the hardware store with my fellow high school percussionists as we were putting together some tin cans for a piece by John Cage. And I found that to be so fun. I have behind me here this collection of instruments, and at the bottom of it is a stack of pots and pans that my mom was going to throw away, and I said, please don't, they might sound cool. But yeah, I was in the kitchen pointing my microphones really close to my mouth when I'm chewing, or my throat when I'm drinking water. I love all these up close and personal sounds that when my wife listens to the piece, she says, ew, I can hear you chewing.
Wow. And I can tell you, when I go to sample stuff, or had sampled stuff in the past, I'm just trying to sample actual instruments so I could use them on the keyboard to have a more authentic horn sound or something. But you're taking it to a whole different level, I gotta say. So let's talk about the hardware for your kit, whether it be for an actual set or the percussive instruments that you use. So when you're performing, what are your go-to instruments? Do you are you a brand loyalist? You know, when it comes to your snares or cymbals. So I might find Zildjians and Gretches or anything else that I may never have even heard of. You might see a Remo head here or something. So
yeah. Well, we're talking about, there's so many things. I actually pulled out a few things that I thought were going to be, I must show Will these things.
I would like to see these things.
First, I'm going to dive under my desk here where I have most of my cymbals stored. I'm going to pull up my collection of cymbals that I gathered while I was in high school to build out my ideal drum set cymbal sound, and they're all different brands. So I've got the first cymbal I bought. Whoops, bumped to the mic there.
There you go. I bumped it twice already, so don't feel bad.
This is the first cymbal I bought here, the Sabian hand-hammered bounce ride, 20 inches. I love this cymbal, and it's now probably 25 years old and has really opened up and has a lot more splashiness to it than when I first bought it. The next cymbals I bought were these Istanbul Mehmet hi-hats.
Okay.
They're unlathed, so they have a pretty dirty sound, but I've especially fallen in love with the open hi-hat sound on these.
All right. And the tone for these different cymbals, I mean, I'm just happy when the drummer is in the pocket.
That's what most non-drummers want the drummer to be. In the pocket, not too loud. I do a funny story related to that if you're interested.
Yes, I am.
This was the first gig I did when I moved back to Chicago. The Chicago area from Los Angeles was down in Whiting, Indiana, playing drum set with a summer pops orchestra. And I showed up like 2 hours early because I had gear. And I beat the conductor there. Once the but I really had to go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom as soon as someone unlocked the door. And then shortly after that, the conductor went to the bathroom, and, you know, we're standing at the urinal, and he says, "So you're the new drummer, huh?" And I was like, "I guess so. That's me." And he's like, "Well, you come from a long, illustrious line of drummers who play too loud and can't keep a steady beat. So who are you?" I said, "I'll just do my best to keep a steady beat, play at a balanced volume, and play whatever's on the page."
Exactly.
But other cymbals, I do have a Zildjian 17-inch fast crash, and I have this K Zildjian dark 10-inch splash cymbal that I love. The things that I use the most, though, I'm going to tilt my laptop screen down so you can see.
Okay.
I have these low volume cymbals, Zildjian L80s, they're called. They have a bunch of holes punched in them, and they're quiet enough that I can play full volume without earplugs on or hearing protection. But most importantly, when students come here for lessons, they can play as loud as they want, and I can still talk to them and give them instruction. When I was first teaching lessons with like full volume cymbals and drum heads, I would be like waving to the student, "Hey, I want to give you instruction. Can you stop playing for a moment?" But now with these L80 cymbals and the Remo silent stroke mesh drum heads, I can actually talk to them while they're playing, which is pretty awesome.
So is this something that is, you plug it in, or is it rubber, or I'm just trying to visualize what's happening here.
It's acoustic. Okay. So it's like shaped like a cymbal. It responds like a cymbal, but it's got a bunch of holes punched in it, so the vibration dies out really quickly. And the snare drum heads, or all the toms and kick drum and snare drum, they all have silent stroke heads. They're made of mesh. So there again, the air just escapes and the vibration dies out quickly, and it's a lot quieter than having regular heads and cymbals on.
Interesting. I'm going to go look stuff like that up, because I've just seen things like this in performing, and I've always wondered and had a basic theoretical idea for the purpose of the holes in a cymbal, but you've explained it quite well. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Like I said, I'm a musical geek, so I like learning about stuff from another perspective, from another musician's point of view, especially someone who plays a different instrument other than me. And that was a beautiful set you have back there, by the way. I love the colors, and it's a beautiful set, man.
I like it. It served me well. It's actually my first drum set. It was this is a Tama Swing Star. It's kind of a student quality set, but it's like the high end of student quality sets. I have another drum set down in the basement here, which is a Slingerland. My sister found it at an estate sale, so I don't exactly know what model of Slingerland it is, but it sounds pretty nice. And she also found some concert toms, which I used in a performance a couple of years ago, and they have a massive sound. These old Slingerland concert toms. I do have one more awesome instrument that I would say is essential for a gigging percussionist. It's the first one I bought after going on several gigs and playing wind chimes that I did not like. I got some Treeworks wind chimes, but the most important thing is the mount. Treeworks has a mount for the wind chimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it has like a felt bar so that after I'm done playing, I don't have to keep it ringing. I just move this bar in place and it mutes them, and then I can lock that bar and the wind chimes aren't swinging all over the place.
Yeah, it comes in handy in between songs or something, I'm sure.
Yep.
All
So
right.
those are my essential gigging gear and teaching gear that I wanted to show you.
Oh, I love it. I love seeing the stuff. I do. Made me think about timpanis. Because when I was coming up, I was the guy who the music teacher would say, okay, Will, go grab this instrument.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing in high school, and I'll make it short because I've shared this story before on the show. We were doing West Side Story in high school, and bass player was out sick. And I'm playing clarinet.
Mm-hmm.
I had clarinet and a bass clarinet, and because, you know, West Side Story is kind of getting into the jazz feel of things, big band jazz, that kind of thing. And so I had a little portable Casio synthesizer that the music teacher had, and I was playing some of the other parts that it required. And he says to me, well, the bass player's not here. I need you basically to go play bass. I have never played bass. Come on. And he just says, 4 strings, chromatic scale. There's the teaching book. I just need to hear the tone. I just need to hear the tonic. So now I'm introduced to the bass. I dabble at it, and one of these days I'll go get one and get better at it. And then he did the same thing with the oboe. And then I had to go jump on a bassoon. So by the time we got ready to do West Side Story, I had my clarinet, bass clarinet, had a keyboard in front of me, had a bassoon, had an oboe, and the bass, the stand-up is bigger than me. I'm only 5'5". So you know the bass is taller than me, and I had the double bass behind me. And I'm like jumping, grabbing, and
They had you do timpani on top of that?
almost. He almost did. The timpani I got right away because I was going to ask you, that was where I was going to with this, was the timpani, if you had your own pair of timpanis. Folks, for those that don't know, the timpani has a very large pedal at the bottom. And what it does is it loosens and tightens the head so that you have specific tones coming out of it. I think, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 2 of the most common pitches are, like, say, from the C major scale, where the larger timpani is tuned to the C and the higher one is to the G.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, composers can choose to put the dominant, the G, either below or above. I think most often with C major, I see it below.
Right.
But a lot of times if you're playing something in G major, you'd have a G below the D. So, yeah, those are the most common pitches, especially Mozart, Beethoven, Haydn. You're almost always getting the 1 and the 5 of whatever key you're in. Actually, I had an embarrassing moment once in college in Los Angeles when I was playing with the debut orchestra there. We were playing a Georges Bizet symphony. And on my part, it said timpani in A and D. And then written on the staff was G and C. And I was like, well, maybe it's supposed to be G and C.
Right.
So I was playing in the rehearsal. I was like, this doesn't sound right. And the assistant conductor came over. He's like, this is one of those weird old timpani parts where you have to transpose to, they write G and C as tonic and dominant, and you have to change the pitch. So yeah, especially older pieces, 1 and 5.
I noticed that the 1 or 2 times that I did play timpani, I was happy that there was a long enough pause that if I had to change the tone, I had ample enough time to do it.
That's the challenge for young timpanists, especially, is when they have to change the pitch in the middle of the piece.
Yeah. And the reason I thought about that, and I don't mean to veer off the rails on this and about timpani, but I think of the theme for 2001: A Space Odyssey. I am not going to try to pronounce the entire title. I also Sprach Zarathustra. I might even have that backwards. But after the horns come in the very beginning, the timpani sound. So it goes da 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 ba da. Then the timpani boom 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 boom. Mm-hmm. And that's what made me think of the pitching of the timpani, because I mean, it's not the only pitch related drum percussion instrument that's out there. I mean, your wind chimes, they have specific pitches to themselves. Yeah. And I have a feeling that when you're walking around making your own sounds, like in the kitchen, you're thinking pitches, aren't you?
I'm definitely thinking high and low. As someone who doesn't have absolute pitch or perfect pitch, I don't hear and think that's an A or a B. But certainly some of my friends who do have perfect pitch, they're hearing things and saying that's almost a B flat or something like that. And of course, with Ableton Live, I can manipulate the pitch and adjust it. I've also at times tuned my tom-toms to specific pitches to match 1, 5, and 4 or something like that.
Well, that sounds all right. Let's move on to the, because I mean, anything that we've talked about, we could stay on for hours if we wanted to. I could just see that between the two of us. But let's get to the info portion of Music Outlook LA Gigs, Gear, and Info and talk about unions. I'm a big union person.
That's how we met?
Yes, that is how we met at the FMA. Freelance Musicians Association, a relatively new organization within the body of AFM, the Association American. God, now all of a sudden I can't remember the initials of my own. The American Federation of Musicians. Duh. I'm out of Local 7, which is Long Beach, Orange County in California. And you're in 10-208 in Chicago. So my question is, after years of the high level work, like at DePaul and Colburn, what was your specific info or the realization that made you decide to join the union?
Well, I went back to school to get a master's degree in music composition in 2023, and I still have the long-term plan of seeking out a doctorate and looking for teaching position in college, but that takes a long time. And in the meantime, I got offered a gig in February of last year to play the musical at the community college where I used to teach. And I had to do a double take when I read the email. It was sent out to maybe 20 percussionists in the area, and the head of the music department said the pay is $500 for the whole run. And I counted it up. There were 15 services for $500. And I thought, oh my goodness, how did he put me on this list? I used to teach there, and I'm a professional, so I had heard about the union numerous times throughout undergrad and at DePaul, and then my time at Colburn in Los Angeles. But people had always told me the reason to join is you get hired for a gig where you have to join. And I thought, boy, I got to find a way to get on better call lists than someone who's offering me $500. Mm-hmm. And I was seeing what's going on in our country, and I thought, the only way I can hope to make a difference is to join with other people. And I don't have to reinvent the wheel, luckily, because the American Federation of Musicians has been around for over 100 years. Mm-hmm. So I reached out to them and said, I'm looking to primarily be a composer. Is this a good thing to join? And there's one other composer who is in the local here, and I talked to him, and he said it's worth joining. And so I did right before I graduated, so I could get my initiation fees waived because I was still a student. And it's been certainly a struggle to learn all the bylaws, especially as someone who is autistic, and just trying to read legal languages, it gives me a headache, to be honest with you. Yeah. And but luckily, the people in the local are very helpful. Anytime I ask a specific question, they either answer it themselves or direct me to someone else who might be able to answer it. And I'm participating now in a mentorship program for new union members to connect with those who have been around for a while. And I'm in the middle of that, so right now I'm still learning a whole bunch. But part of what's happened in the short term is that I've turned down some gigs that haven't paid me a living wage. That's what I'm hoping to work to, having all the gigs I do be enough money to eventually pay rent.
Yeah. Our union and all of the unions across the country and internationally, but specifically across the country, they've been lobbying Congress for a better working wage. Mm-hmm. Making sure that when we do gigs, that the venues recognize union membership and pay the working membership wages that we've agreed to in various contracts and the like.
And allow us to make pension contributions on top of it. That's a big deal.
Yeah. We have health insurance, just like anybody else, just like any other union, So we're doing it. We're advocating to have a living wage, good working wage. We even have listings of union-friendly, if you want to call it that, venues where you get the work and the manager or whomever is in charge of the venue does not have a problem making sure that the union musician gets paid the union wage. So I've been a member of the union now for going on almost maybe close to 10 years.
Yeah.
And I advocate in my own way through the show and in others that I speak to, join the union and copyright your work before you put it out there. That's it. Legally protect yourself and your work. I mean, we spend hours, days, months, years, anywhere from on one song, either to practice it if we're covering, or an original piece, no matter what genre it is, to an entire symphony in your case, movements, or in my case, album, or even in your case too as well, doing an album, and you got all the tracks, and we're spending a great deal of time to put these things together.
Yeah.
So why shouldn't we be paid for our time?
Well, the reality is, if we're not, we have to fall back on other social safety nets. Like where I'm at right now, living with my wife's parents, I'm so grateful to have this place to live because it's allowed me the freedom to turn down work that doesn't pay enough.
Yeah.
So that I can build this network of people who can, venues, and understand how all of these business operations work. Because on top of all the musical things we're doing, the self-advocacy is work in and of itself. Calculating how much should I ask for a particular gig. And without the union, I have had no idea in the past how much I should be asking for. And when I have other members of the union sit down with me and look at how much things cost, I realized, like, oh my goodness, I've been underpaid for most of the work I've done up to this point. That's a big reason for the financial situation I'm in. And the way out is through teamwork with the other union members.
Yeah. One of the things, unfortunately, in this society, we musicians are taken advantage of. We are looked at as the party favor. We're the background people, no matter what type of function it is. Oh, well, just put them in the back, have them eat in the kitchen or whatever. It's like, you have to pay us to do this work. We go to school for years to hone our craft. We practice long hours. And we're doing various things of our own time because we're doing something that we love. And you just want to give me crumbs? No, I want at least several slices of the bread loaf, not just the crumbs that fall on the table. I'm sorry. And we, one of the things that a union tool that I do use when I'm playing, haven't played out in a little bit, but when I do, if I take a gig where I know it's lower paying, it's by my own choice, but otherwise, if it's union or union paying gig, or I'm looking to get the union wage, we have a spreadsheet, and it lists the various wages for the various types of work we're doing. And that's one tool I'm glad that we do have for the union. It lets you know, okay, you're going to go do amusement park, just to throw it out there. I didn't commit the list to memory, so I'm just saying, okay, you're going to play for such and such at so-and-so amusement park for X amount of time, and then it breaks it down there on the spreadsheet. Or recording studio, boom, 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 boom. So whatever the venue is, or the situation is, there's, as they say, there's an app for that. We have a spreadsheet for that. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Let's get into. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that what ends up happening if we accept lower wages is people start thinking that that's how much our work is worth, and that's what they expect to pay, and then that reduces how much anybody can get paid for music. And that's really the essence of why we organize, why we pay dues to pay the people who are going to lobby Congress and that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. With your students, let's jump back to the expert noticer tool. So you teach them to be these expert noticers. So what is one piece of information or a mental tool that you think freelance musicians are currently not noticing about their own value or the way they handle their business?
I speak mostly for myself here because having joined the union last year, I'm still learning about this. What I have come to learn, and I hope younger musicians of the next generation learn this as well, is exactly what I was alluding to before, that whatever I'm willing to accept for pay for this work is the set of social circumstances that the next generation is going to inherit from me.
Right.
And from all of us. And so I come into society when I did, born in 1987, and I deal with whatever the marketplace realities are in the time I live. And I have to advocate for when I'm advocating for myself, I'm really advocating for the next generation, for what I'm passing on to them. What is the state of music when the next generation comes around and is trying to enter the field of being a professional musician?
Right. Because like you said, it is a chain, if you will. If this guy here accepts the wage at this particular venue or for this particular gig and it's lower than what others have gotten in the past, and others either hear about it and they say, well, okay, well, if he paid that guy that, then I'm going to pay the next guy I get. I'm going to pay them that. And it's all below the wage. And then it just catches up and catches up and catches up. Or even the musicians here that, oh, that's how much he paid me. And if you're a new guy, you're like, oh, well, that's what you get. Okay. No, you're being underpaid. Don't start the cycle. Start right at the bat. If the person or persons are not willing to pay you what you're worth, you don't have to do the work. You don't have to do the gig.
Even if you're in college and you need experience, like that's something I didn't really understand when I was in college. I know looking back, I got taken advantage of on many occasions, and I'm not doing that anymore, basically, because I can see the chain that's happened from my own accepting low wages for the first several years of my career.
Exactly. Just going to jump ship to this one. A lot of what you're doing is due to, I guess not due to, but for lack of a better word, as a result of your late stage autism diagnosis later on in your life. So on that, what information would you like to give to any of the young musicians out there who feel like they don't fit in to the social schmoozing mode, if you will, of the freelance world? And how can they make the industry work for them if they are also autistic or they just feel they're different?
I'm not really the right person to be giving advice on this particular thing, because I'm exactly like that. This is the biggest challenge that I've faced as a musician, and why it's been so helpful for me to learn that I'm autistic, is that those sorts of social interactions tire me out like nothing else. And it makes it really hard to switch gears from talking to people who have supported the musical event financially to then switch gears into performance mode and be 100% on. It's a tall order for me. And one of the things that I've been doing is just telling people up front things like, I have trouble remembering names and faces. And that's a real detriment when you're meeting lots of people and you're trying to figure out which relationships to foster. So certain people, when I put them in my contacts, I add a description of where did I meet them, what work are they involved with, what's their area of expertise, so I can search in my contacts for that keyword and pull up a list of people. But as I say, I'm such a novice at meeting people and social schmoozing that I don't have much to offer in terms of wisdom here, because I'm still learning to do that myself.
That's wisdom in and of itself. Ask me, that's wisdom in and of itself. So, on that note, Joe, I want to thank you ahead of time for being a guest here on Music Outlook LA, Gigs, Gear, and Info. And I always ask this final question of all the guests. What's in your car? In other words, what do you listen to when you're out and about?
Excuse the cat here. She really wants to say hi.
Aww. and your cat's name is?
Chi.
Chi.
Hey,
all
Chi.
right. How you doing there? I've got two dogs, Shih Tzu and a Shih Tzu mix. So Miles Davis and Quincy Jones.
Oh, good names.
Yes. I picked them myself.
Excellent.
And my wife's like, so what are we going to call them? And I told her, and she was like, okay.
Well,
she's got to create,
question.
She's a creative person herself. So she gets it.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you listen to when you're out and about?
This actually is another thing related to being autistic. I myself have 2 times in my life fallen asleep while driving.
Oh, gosh.
So I try to avoid driving as much as I can. And when I have a gig that requires me to drive, I really try to prepare with sleep and making sure I have some upbeat music in my car. We still have a CD player in our car, so I have my whole collection of CDs that I draw from many different genres of music. But a lot of times, especially like if I've been teaching all day, my ears are completely saturated and I can't listen to any more music.
Yeah.
So I'm driving back with just the silence, I'm putting that in air quotes, just the sound of the car going from one place to the next. And the vast majority of the time I try to travel by bicycle and public transit. And other times we have a really great classical music station here in Chicago, WFMT. So I'll listen to that, and they have great programming. So I enjoy listening to that. And other times I'm listening to something I'm working on. A lot of times I want to know, does my mix sound okay in the car?
Yeah.
Because I'm listening on my nice Sennheiser headphones. And you got some Sennheisers there?
I've got 3 pairs of them. These are my HD... Which ones are these? These are my 203s. And I think the other ones are 205s. I've got 2 sets of those.
Well,
I've been a Sennheiser person since 1990.
Well, you can hear so much more detail in those headphones, and sometimes my mix sounds great on those Sennheiser headphones. I can hear all the space of the sound stage, but then I put it in the car and something gets like overloaded in a car, like a cheap Toyota car stereo system. And so I go back home and I make some adjustments on that mix. Other times I'm listening to music for the gig. Like I remember playing a gig of like 1960s rock music and I had never heard any of it. And I was like, well, I better listen to all these things before I go play. So I was listening to them in the car. But the best is conversation. If I can have someone in the car with me who's talking to me, there's a very low chance I'm going to fall asleep.
Yeah, be careful out there, folks. Joe, be careful out there. Get yourself some rest and keep doing what you need to do so that you can get from point A to point B in one safe, secure piece, please.
That's my priority. I've learned to leave myself 20 extra minutes in case I have to pull over and take a nap.
There you go. Because I had one of my guests can't listen to anything, before his gig at all. Another one listens to news. I personally will listen to the set list. Even though I've practiced it and listened to it, I'll listen to the set list on my way to the gig to make sure that I'm more familiar with it, because I will, even in pop music, I have my lead sheet, so it's just chord changes above the staff. If I have an important line that I have to play, I will write it out. And, on the staff itself, I will have hash marks, diagonal hash marks for the beat. So, your basic general lead sheet, if I'm in 4/4 time, and I've got 12 staves on a standard sheet, blank sheet music, I'm going to break each of those staves up into 4 separate measures so that it looks kind of uniform on the page. I'm just like that. And you'll see these diagonal hash marks going across to represent each of the beat, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll go from, say, I'll just throw a progression out there, B flat minor 7 to an E flat 7, and then to the tonic is A flat. So B flat minor 7 has the first 2 hash marks. E7 with a 9 tension, or flat 9, is the third and fourth beat, and then 4 beats of A flat. So, and depending on the song, because I've heard it enough in the car on the way, I can say, oh yeah, that's that line I couldn't get, and that's how that goes, and I can actually remember to play that part. And if I don't, because it's, I'm playing basically in a different venue than you. I'm playing in a bar.
I have played in a bar before.
Yeah.
I played this is a pretty funny story if you got the time.
Oh yeah, go ahead, huh?
When I was at DePaul, I played a piece by a Slovenian composer named Vinko Globokar. The piece was called Corporel, which means on the body. And I play on my body. And this group that was in Chicago, the chamber group, had booked themselves to like a whole bunch of small bar venues. They were doing classical music at bars, and they said, you want to play your piece at this bar? And I was like, will it fit? And they're like, oh, it's fine. I was like, well, I need to have a microphone, otherwise no one's going to hear me. And their microphone was not very good, so I was trying to play my body loud, but it's not really an instrument. And I got on the train going back to my apartment in Chicago. I looked it was nighttime. I looked at the window and saw my reflection. I had a big welt on my forehead and a black eye from playing my head as an instrument. And when I saw that, I said, I have to remove this piece from my repertoire.
Yeah, I bet.
But I did do one more recording of it. It's on my YouTube page. So you can see the piece if you're interested.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be putting all of the places where they could listen and watch your material in the show notes. And Joe, again, thank you so much for being a guest on Music Outlook LA. I am so glad that I got to meet you. You are a very interesting young man, and I do wish you all the success and all the best in your musical endeavors. Thank you again so much for being a participant on the show.
Thanks for having me on, Will. I really appreciate getting to meet you too.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Yep, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Music Outlook LA, Gigs, Gear, and Info. And thanks again to my guest, Joe Beribak. Be sure to check out the show notes for his website and contact information in case you need a gig. And please, folks, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the show at both Spreaker.com, Spreaker, and on YouTube. The links will be in the notes as well for that. So Music Outlook LA is also available just about wherever you get your podcasts. That would be Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, SoundCloud, and a whole host of others. We're also on iHeartRadio. We also have this search engine. It's called Listen Notes. So if you can't find it, go to listennotes.com and just type in Music Outlook LA, L.A., and it'll tell you where it is, and give us a rating on podchaser.com. That's Joe Beribak. I'm Will Kimsey, aka WK Music. Everybody. And Chi.
And she's here.
And there's Chi. All right, y'all. Peace.
Have a good one.
All righty. This podcast is both brought to you and produced by Kimsey Entertainment, LLC. Music Outlook LA is a copyrighted broadcast of Kimsey Entertainment, LLC. The views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily those of Will Kimsey or Kimsey Entertainment, LLC. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or any other use of this product without the express written consent of Kimsey Entertainment, LLC is strictly prohibited.